Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of Wear Many Hats, the definitive facilities management podcast. Great to have you all here again. As ever, please support the podcast, like, share and follow us on LinkedIn. And, make your colleagues aware across FM that there is this podcast here. We're trying to drive interest. We're trying to create a bit of a buzz. So please support us as we're doing that. Anyway, another really good one for you here. I'm pleased to be joined by Louise Sheppard, who is the Workplace Services and Security Lead at Zurich Insurance. How you doing?
Hello. I'm very good, thank you.
You okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Where have you come from today?
So today I've come from our Mark Lane office.
Yeah.
I've been there this morning, a few different meetings.
Yeah.
With the business, with the team there, seeing how they're getting on.
Yeah.
Been out and about, doing some stuff around London, and obviously come here at the end.
Ducking and diving, dodging a dibble.
Yes.
Yeah. As old Del Boy would say. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, listen, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here, Louise. I always like to start with a very, very easy question. Obviously, I know that you've been at Zurich for quite a period of time and you've worked your way up through the ranks. Tell us a little bit about that journey and how you got into becoming the facilities management lead for the business.
Yep, sure. So, facilities management isn't something that people come out of college or university or school or anything thinking, I'm going to go into facilities. It's not really kind of a sexy sort of career, is it?
No.
But I did my degree at university. That was a sandwich course. And as part of that, I did my placement at Zurich.
Right.
Working in a project team. So very much involved in various different IT, business projects, mergers and things like that. And I did that for about 15 months.
Yep.
Went back to university and was only back for a few weeks, and Zurich contacted me and said, come on, we want you to come and work for us, which was fantastic for me. But
that's brilliant.
I wanted to finish my degree because obviously if it didn't work out, at least
You've got that to fall back on.
Exactly,
Yeah. Same as a footballer or a sportsman.
Well, I don't know about
just in case it doesn't work out, we're going to have that degree in the back pocket. Yeah.
But so I finished my degree, started working for Zurich.
What was your degree in?
It was in information systems management, so very sort of technical programming, data.
Oh, really?
But there was elements of project management in there, politics, marketing, all sorts of different
So
things.
are you quite tech-driven as a person then? Is that kind of you enjoy that?
To some degree, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, fair enough. We'll close that question then. Carry on.
But yeah, so I started working for Zurich and I worked in kind of like desktop support, telecom support. Right. Very much kind of hardcore programming of call centre. Wow. Kind of all the sort of like...
so zeros and ones, basically?
To a certain degree, yeah. It was the old-fashioned sort of like programming.
Yeah.
So send the call here and all the interactive voice responses, press 1 for this, press 2 for that, did all of that sort of programming.
Oh, so you're responsible for... So we've got you to thank.
Years ago.
Louise, God.
But it was also very much... kind of hands-on in the fact of, it was the old, I don't know if you know what a crone tool is.
No, yeah.
Patching,
yeah.
So very much all of that, very male-dominated sort of industry.
Yeah.
So it's quite tough, really. Had a tough couple of sort of like years really going through that. But
really?
Worked with some really, really good team members at Zurich. Yeah. Did that for around about sort of 10 years at Zurich. And I thought, I've got to do something more. And I was always being kind of pushed down the project route, but it's not really where I wanted to go.
Right.
Had a fantastic manager at the time and said, look, why don't you just try some secondments, which I did. And it was probably the best thing I ever did. So I went on a series of different secondments within Zurich, working with different teams, working on different assignments, cost-saving exercises, all sorts of different things.
So you really got to know the business then?
I did, yeah. I mean, operations, which is, where I work now and where I've done pretty much most of my career, it's a fantastic department because it gives you that breadth across any sort of business.
Yeah.
So I did have that opportunity to sort of like see across different areas. I worked for a couple of the COOs. So again, that's a really great opportunity. And then this corporate real estate job came up and I was a bit like, let's see how it goes, put my hand at whatever really that gets presented in front of me.
So you'd never really touched on it before, but it came and you thought, I'll give it a crack and see how it goes.
Probably like most people thinking facilities is about cleaning the toilets.
Yes. Yeah. We do all have a lot of pictures of toilets on our phones, don't we?
yeah, so I went into a role which was really focusing on where we do projects for fit outs.
Oh, okay, exciting.
Being that link between the project team and the business and getting their design, what they wanted from an office space.
Yeah.
And pulling that all in. That's how I started my, I suppose, next step in sort of facilities, that sort of area.
So that experience with projects earlier on in your career really helped you.
Yeah, definitely.
When you made that move into sort of the facility sphere.
Definitely.
Right.
And then I took on the environmental stuff for the department. Then I took on the facilities stuff for the department. Then I took on the security stuff for the department. It just sort of evolved.
So basically people were like, Louise is really good at this. Give it to Louise.
But I wanted it. I mean, I once I'd understood something and I suppose mastered it to a certain degree, I've built my team up. I've got a really, really good team that work for me. And it's just fantastic. I love working in this team. I will have worked in all of the teams that I worked for within Zurich. But I think what I love about the facilities side of things is the fact that, every day you're making a difference.
Yep.
Every day is different. You learn something new.
Yeah.
I know all these technical things, fan core units and HVAC and all these different things now, which I never in a million years would have thought that I would have been looking at learning, I think it's a challenging department and team to be in because a lot of the stuff you do, I say is invisible to the person.
Yeah.
You're often...
They only notice it when it goes wrong.
Exactly.
I would say it's probably a good indication.
But the thing is, often they don't see that you're working weekends, working late nights. You're pretty much always on call.
Yeah.
You get the messages through from the sites to say there's a leak or the intruder alarm's gone off and all these different things that the team respond to, and escalate to myself, or I need to then escalate to other people. But, part of me loves that element of the unknown. Could be sitting there just relaxing and then the next minute you're spending your whole
the world's gone upside down.
something.
Yeah. It is a bit like a hidden service though, isn't it? I suppose. It's quite interesting what you said.
It is. And I think a lot of people just don't realise, they don't understand. We get... questions sometimes to say, why can't we feed back about our reactive budget and what we're going to be spending that money on? Well, it's reactive,
It's
we don't know what's going to happen, and anything could happen from a boiler going, which could be 80k, to something simple as the light bulb needs changing. So
or flood or
flood,
anything.
But I have a great team. We work with some really great people. We've got great people on our sites, and they do a fantastic job. And fundamentally, we're an important cog in making sure that the business that we work for, our employees have got a great space to work. Our visitors have got everything they need when they're on site. And people can get on with their job and deliver for the company at the end of the day.
Yeah, which is fantastic. Sounds absolutely great. You can actually see the enthusiasm as well that goes through. So can I ask, in terms of your team at the minute, how many people do you have in your team?
Yeah, so I've got 4 direct reports that work for me, and obviously we've got a team of around about 100 that support across our sites. Right. I classify them, although they're outsourced with different contractors.
Still
I classify them. They're my team,
Yeah, of course they are.
Because I care about them as much as I do people in my team about their careers, their progression.
And you work hand in hand as a team. Of course you do. That's the kind of thing about subcontracting, isn't it? Even though you subcontract, they're still very much part of your culture.
We're one family.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely.
Brilliant. Okay, so you said something quite interesting before, and I'd like to touch on it if you don't mind. Just where you found it difficult moving into a male-dominated industry at a younger age. What advice would you give to a young female professional that may find themselves in a similar situation?
Yeah.
I hope I've not overstepped there.
No, not at all.
I think that's an interesting question.
No, I mean, exactly the same in the facilities. It's still very male-dominated. I think for a female, there's so many different jobs there that you can do. And I think more so particularly now we're in this hybrid world, there's more opportunities for flexible working, different hours, which is not just specific for females. It's there's lots of men out there that are the dads that are at home with the kids and all this, and actually when the kids have got to school and they need to find jobs, this can be a really good industry to get into.
Without a doubt,
I think the other interesting thing is a lot of the team that we've seen, and there's a couple of individuals that they've moved between different areas. So they might have started off in cleaning, but then they've also then trained up to be security, so they can do that as well. We've had people that have gone from catering to reception to leads for a site, and now then maybe contract support or whatever. And it's just fantastic. Once you get in there, you've got that almost, I suppose, ladder really to kind of then go and try out different things and see the different roles that are available.
I compare it to a bit of a labyrinth because there's so many different pathways that you can take, and they all put you in a different direction and things like that. But it all kind of links into the same thing. It's a really interesting industry for that reason, because I don't think there's any other industry quite like it, really, in terms of...
No, I mean, well, definitely not one that I've sort of like been in.
Yeah.
But no, it's. I mean, operations, again, you can move into different roles within ops. I mean, you can move into different roles within any sort of like company. But I think with facilities, because of the way all the different roles are interlinked, you can't have security and reception working in silo. They have to work together as a team. You can't have cleaning and maintenance not working together, because maintenance might make a mess and then cleaning have got to clean it up.
They've got to clean it up afterwards,
So there's, you have to work together as a team, and I think that's when it works well. And so because of that, you just see the opportunities there. I don't think there's anything specific from a female perspective that I would encourage them to do or anything. Just, if you see job descriptions out there, even if you don't meet all of the requirements, if you meet 50%, just apply for it.
Yeah, give it a crack.
There's a lot of men or non-binary or whoever that apply for roles, not being able to do everything. But, a lot of it you learn on the job.
You do, yeah. And I think facilities is one of those jobs where it's very much a case of, look, because it's a very practical role as opposed to a theoretical role, isn't it? It's very practical, hands-on. You've got to get down to the grips with it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. So in terms of facilities management and your day-to-day, what do you find the most challenging, Louise? Is there any part of it where you think, oh, God, not this again? Oh.
No, I don't. There's days that are tougher than others.
Yeah.
And I think there's sometimes things that you when there's challenges that come up, things that go wrong, and you're trying to understand the root cause of what's going on. Sometimes you just never get to what the understanding is of the root cause of a problem.
Yeah, of
You've
course.
just got to resolve it and move on. I think that can be one of the challenging things, because I like to understand what's caused it so that we can rectify it so something doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
But then that would be an ideal world, and we don't live in an ideal world, do we?
Very true, very true.
I think the security side, which is the area that I've picked up quite recently, that's been quite challenging. Again, another male-dominated sort of environment.
Yeah, very much so.
But actually very, very interesting. And I think probably one of the challenges is building that network up that you need. Everybody goes to the events and things like that and talks to people, but it's actually building the network of people that are trusted advisors, people that you can really reach out to when you've got, a challenge on your hand or you're not quite sure what to do. If there's protests going on, for example, we've got a really good relationship with the City of London Police. The people that are in the buildings near and around us, we've got networks of communication so we can speak with them.
Yeah, intel is crucial in that industry.
It is. And I think that's probably one of the sort of like challenges, just reaching out. But actually, once you start doing that, people can start to see the benefit of it. And when we've benefited from it, as have, many others.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So you don't see problems, you see solutions, effectively. That's what you're saying. Good stuff. Okay, what's the bit you enjoy the most then? What is there an element of the role that you really enjoy more than any part of it?
I think my favourite thing is when we've done a fantastic refit on one of our offices.
Yeah.
And you're there on that first day when the employees walk back in, and I'll never forget Glasgow when we refit the Glasgow office. Yeah. And literally standing in reception, seeing people walk in and they're like, wow.
Really?
Literally and our Swindon office was just absolutely fantastic, really. When people walked in, they were just blown away. Yeah. We're very lucky that we've got such fantastic offices. Yeah. And that's down to our corporate real estate team, all of us that we put in for the design and the build and the construction, working with all the different contractors and stuff. Yeah. And I think that's probably my favourite bit, seeing their faces and having such a fantastic office to work in. Yeah. That's probably my favourite. Yeah.
I do understand that actually, because it's like when you decorate your living room, isn't it? You know, when you finish, you stand back and you go, "That looks good."
Yeah.
I've done a good job there. I don't know.
I leave that to my husband. I don't decorate.
But you must tell him that he's done a good job, though.
Yeah.
Or you tell him that's wrong. Take it down now.
No, he's a good man. He's a carpenter by trade.
Oh, really?
So he's very, very, very
chippy,
handy.
A chippy. Okay, yeah. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination. I can decorate. I can paint. I can't paste papers. I can do that. Okay, so that's really, really interesting. So let's move on to something that's quite pertinent in the industry right now, surrounding ESG. Obviously, environmental, social, and governance. What are your thoughts on that? And how do you see it progressing over, let's say, the next 5 years? Because for the last 3 years, it's been very pertinent. It started creeping in about 5 years ago, didn't it? Last 3 years, and post-COVID, it's become very, very important, something that we all need to be focused on. So what's your view on that?
I mean, it's vitally important, it's fundamentally the core of our business and what we do. It's really, really important. From an environmental side, I picked up that a few years ago, and to the point it was, I suppose, relatively quite small then, important, but actually it's grown considerably to the point where an individual that was in my team at the time, they took that on as because it just grew so much. We just needed something.
It has though. The last year, it really has become its own thing.
So, it's almost the norm now. It's not, when I talk about it, it's just almost standard practice, no single-use plastics, all of the great stuff, trying to reduce down on paper. We've got digital processes, all the stuff that we do in facilities and in our workplaces. We try to be digital wherever possible so that we're not using paper, even to the point where we've almost hidden our printers in our offices to make it difficult for our employees to print.
We do a very similar thing. You've got to, haven't you?
You have to, you really do. The social side of it is a real passion for me, to be honest. We've dramatically changed from a facilities perspective over the past couple of years. So we went to...
Tell me all. I'm excited about this because I don't know if you've heard, but I always say on this show, great at the E, we're great at the G, but we struggle sometimes with the S. So, right, here we go. I'm excited. Let's go.
A couple of years ago, we went out to tender, looking to change suppliers, and a fundamental part of that tender was around social enterprise, social value, and what the suppliers could offer really as part of that tender.
Right.
And it was a really important part, and probably one of the key things that we really looked at. So we moved forward. We chose a supplier. And in our core values that we had with them, we challenged them really to get 50% of the contract to be with social value, social enterprise, diverse suppliers. Yeah. And we're pretty much there, to be honest, which is fantastic.
Okay. So that was moving to a diverse supply.
Or social enterprises, different suppliers.
Yeah.
So, for example, things like security was with a security firm that's a social enterprise.
Yeah.
So again, percentage of the overall cost, that contributed to that 50%.
Right.
We've got cleaning firms. We've got we use water filtration companies that are social enterprises.
Right.
So many different ones. Some obviously the general products that we use, so whether it's paper towels, soaps, any sort of products, really, anything we do, whenever we're looking to change a supplier, we will always look for a diverse supplier, MSD UK, any of the ones that are out there, really is first and foremost. We would not I suppose we wouldn't look at any of the quality issues.
Yeah.
I should say the quality issues are the most important thing, really.
But because the service has to be delivered, doesn't it?
Just because they're social enterprise, diverse supplier, we're not going to go with them just because of that reason.
Of course.
The quality is absolutely paramount.
Yeah.
But what you tend to find with a lot of, particularly the social enterprises, they have a vested interest. They might be dealing with in-work poverty. They might be recruiting ex-military or veterans or whatever. Yeah. So the individuals that are working for that company have more of an interest in the company and making sure they do good. So they quite often producing much better quality of performance in whatever they're doing because of the fact that they're vested into that company,
Right.
because of what they do or their charitable donations, whatever it might be.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's really interesting. Okay, and that's been quite a positive rollout, and you've seen actually, you would say, an increase of from an efficiency perspective across your entire portfolio of sites.
I think there has been some efficiency on the contract because of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not easy.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, it's not the easy route or necessarily the cheapest.
No, I completely agree.
Because actually, sometimes, these social enterprises or suppliers, they don't have the economies of scale.
No.
They can't go and get the prices that maybe some of the bigger firms can get.
Yeah, of course.
So both with our outsource provider, we've supported them in being able to get better prices, through the chains, supported them with their management information, because quite often, they're not quite there with what we need.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And really helped them and supported them,
Right.
So it's a lot of investment both from us and from our outsource provider to really support these companies. But that's what it's all about. It's about, give and take and support. As I said, it could be the easy route. You can go to a supplier that can just do it, or you can sit back and relax. But actually, that's not the right thing to do.
So it sounds like a real collaboration to me, which,
It is.
and I think that's the crucial element, because it sounds to me as well like what you're effectively doing is you're taking an organisation that probably isn't quite there yet, helping them with guidance and bringing them up to a better level, which will mean that as a business they become a better business, and your service levels increase as a result. But you're helping another company, which, to be fair, that sits within the S as well.
Yes,
I think I really think it does, because it's not. So I don't think it's just about communities. I don't think it's just about. It's how do you help overall? How do you project a positive influence out into the world that people can really buy into?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do it further within the company as well. With stationery and various different companies, because there's loads out there. I think the one area that needs more social enterprises or social value links is on the mechanical and electrical sort of side of things. There's a few companies there, fire type companies for fire hydrants and things like that. But that's an area which really needs to see more diverse suppliers or social enterprise.
They're probably too busy having a cup of tea, I would have thought.
Possibly. But the thing is, a lot of companies that are out there, they don't realise they are. They don't realise if they're woman-led, then they can, be a diverse supplier. If they're ethnically owned and managed, so there's a lot of companies out there that probably don't realise. And if they just considered that or looked at some of the prerequisites of what you need to become a social enterprise or diverse supplier, they could get that accreditation. And there's companies like us that are screaming out looking for these companies.
That's really interesting. Really interesting indeed. Okay, so moving on to something slightly different, and it might be something that you're quite interested in given your technological background. Artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things, obviously they kind of tie in together. How do you think that will impact FM over the next, let's say, 5 years again?
I think it already is impacting.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's quite a broad spectrum there, really. You've got the sensors, companies have got sensors in.
Yep.
You can get all this data back, I think one of the challenges from that perspective is making sure you're doing something with the data. It's not cheap to put the sensors in.
No.
So you've got to have an understanding of what it's going to do. If you're putting sensors in your facilities, for example, to indicate to the cleaners when they need to change toilet rolls or anything from that perspective, if they've got to go in there anyway to empty the bins or top up the soap dispensers, what's kind of, do you know what I mean? It's understanding how it is properly driving productivity. I think possibly, things like sensors in hydration points to understand how often they're used, that can be really useful information. Going more on the sort of like AI side or what I see as the AI side, where you get to the world where you can have a drone that could look at the roof and look at the assets that are on the roof and tell you kind of their age, the condition, and link it in with obviously your CAFM systems or whatever to let you know when that needs to be replaced and almost automate a lot of that. I think that's when it starts getting interesting. And I think that's really what we need to start looking at more, because actually it's a very manual process to a certain degree, looking at all the assets of a company.
It can also be a risky process as well, depending on where those assets are. And expensive, very much so.
Yeah. If something goes wrong and it's not maintained properly, then but where AI can possibly help with that, that could be the game changer, really.
Yeah, so drones whizzing out every week and and then whizzing back into their little house.
And I think a lot of the AI has been in the security industry, probably more so, probably with like MI5 and places like that. When it's looking for individuals in town centres to try and identify them with facial recognition and such like.
People with Asbos and things like that. Yeah.
Don't know about that.
Running around with 2 litre bottles of cider and a packet of Regal 10s. But showing me age there.
But I think it's more, it's like if a child goes missing in a shopping centre, you've got a picture of the child and it can start looking for that child. That's where it's again, there's been some recent cases in the press, around, individuals that have gone missing in the mountains and things like that. If AI could help to find those individuals and plot where they've gone and whatever. There's so much. you can't walk around London without being caught on a CCTV camera. They're everywhere, know. So it's taking it to that next level, really.
I think they've trialled facial recognition in a few places. I won't mention where, but I think that there seems to be quite a bit of people just don't like the concept of it. I think because it's your face. They're not bothered if it's a finger or a leg or a gait, but because it's the face, I think that there seems to be a bit of pushback.
But they'll probably use their face on their phone.
No, they do. Yeah, well, they've already got our faces anyway, haven't they?
Faces on your driving license.
Without a doubt.
It's not like it's.
But we're weird beings, aren't we? We don't think like that, do we? Does that make sense? We're like, you're not having my face. Who are you? No way. Leave me alone. It's the man. Orwell. Okay, brilliant. So let me ask you this question. Let's say we pop you in the Wear Many Hats time machine and we take you back to the first day that you took over the facilities over at Zurich. What advice would you give yourself?
Don't do it. No, not really. No. Gosh, what advice would I give myself?
That's a good question, isn't it? It is. What can you think there?
I'd probably say, which is actually what I did to a certain degree, just take a step back, take it all in.
Yeah.
Don't make any immediate rash decisions. And just spend that time, whether it's the first sort of couple of weeks or 30 days or whatever, getting to know your team, what they do, what their concerns are, what the challenges are. And also kind of, look at whatever your portfolio is, holistically to understand, what needs the focus first.
Yeah.
Because there are always problems in facilities. There's always something, but you're a problem solver in effect.
Yeah.
In my role, you're constantly dealing with problems. I think if you mapped out a day, literally, I probably deal with 100, 200 things in a day and literally could be on a call also dealing with something else over here. So, you literally have to be a master at solving problems, but also as well making sure that your team are able to have that autonomy to make the decisions because it can't all be on one person.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So I ask a few people that question. It throws them usually, because it's quite an interesting. Like, what would you say to your younger self? Just in any walk of life, really. Like how would your younger self deal with the older you coming and giving them advice? It'd be an unusual thing, wouldn't it?
I was very lucky because the lovely lady that managed facilities before me, there was a period of time where we had a good handover. So it wasn't like I was just thrown in and it was like, what the heck's going on?
Yeah.
And I really appreciated obviously the information and everything that was kind of like given to me, because actually I don't have any qualifications in facilities management. I'm not an expert in security or anything from that perspective.
Yeah.
But I feel I'm a good leader. And
sometimes that's all that's needed.
Yeah. And, I'm fair to my team and, and I think, we are a team, I don't dictate.
No.
Not often, but, that's what it's about really. And I think sometimes in some of these roles, you just, you need to be a decision maker and you need to be that red sometimes.
Yes, you do, yeah.
And literally just make the decisions and just move on.
Right.
And you think when things go wrong, just learn from it, not take it to heart. And it is hard sometimes, but particularly when there's been a failure of some description, taking it to heart, but you just can't, because there's always something else around the corner.
You can only control what you can control.
Exactly.
You know, it's one of those things. So in terms of sort of kind of staying on that kind of, how important is delegation, do you think, from an FM perspective? Yeah?
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that.
So in my team, I've got two lovely ladies, split the country in half to a certain degree, because I can't get to them all. So,
of course.
And again, you know, one lady's based sort of like in Leeds, so she covers the sort of northern sites.
Super Leeds.
and one lady's based sort of like South Coast.
Yeah.
So obviously she covers the South Coast, generally sort of sites. I mean, it's not exact, but you know.
Yeah.
And then I've got a technical innovation manager who's fantastic knowledge on mechanical, electrical, anything from that perspective. And then I've also got a fantastic support person that literally just will work on anything and everything, and also has started getting involved in some of the small project stuff, which is really good.
Right.
From my perspective, you know, they need to make sure that they know what their approval limits are, what they can do, and they need to be working with the teams as much as possible on site. I can't, you know, having everything come to me. I can't. Like, you just can't do it. You wouldn't stop.
Yeah, I've got you.
And they're a fantastic team. You know, we meet monthly. If something's not working, we'll look to change and adjust. And we work with our outsourced provider. You know, they know their authority limits. You know, and they have delegated rights on certain things that they can just crack on and do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just works. It's an important element, really, in facilities. You know, I don't know how some people do it when they're the only person, you know, managing all of the facilities. It must be like
crazy,
just crazy. Yeah. You need that team.
You do. Okay. So how do you how do you stay up to date with trends and what's taking place? And you know, do you get involved in networking? Like how do you stay at the, you know, the crux of the industry, I suppose, in terms of what's happening?
It's hard because quite often it's quite fast moving.
Yeah.
So I have various different groups, social networking, sort of like groups that I'm a part of, like, you know, IWFM, PFM, all of those sort of good groups. I was just literally with a team today, Women in FM.
Fantastic.
Which is really good.
Yeah.
And really it's just building your kind of networks up. You know, when you go to these great events that are going on around the country and stuff. Yeah. You know, you can walk around the exhibitions and just have a look, but actually it's making those contacts, because, you know, they're the sort of people that are really going to support you when you need, you know, the help. Yeah. We've got fantastic construction firms that we've worked with, building firms, you know, all different sort of like team members, and, you know, they all pass through kind of intel on what's going on in the industry, what other clients are doing, you know, new trends and things that are happening. Our outsourced provider are really good as well. They have regular updates and they share best practice. Regulatory stuff is always the interesting one.
Yeah, of course.
You have to obviously comply, and it's really important. So, you know,
and they tend to change under the radar as well.
They do, yes.
So 9 times out of 10, you don't know whether or not something's happened until you've done something wrong, Louise.
We're never in that position.
No, God, of course it will. You've got a great dynamic leader down there, so you're fine. You know, nothing to worry about.
But it's. I mean, it does challenge. You have to keep on top of it, and sometimes it can be a minefield. You know. But again, with my team, you know, the technical chap in my team, you know, he's fantastic. You know, he'll keep an eye on what's going on. If there's different things that need to change, if we're not compliant, you know, he's straight on and you know, discussing what we need to sort out or do. So
well, I mean, it was announced today in the King's Speech, wasn't it, that they want to take away the red tape with regards to building regulations and things like that to get Britain building again, I suppose. So.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to that, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
We'll end up with like funny houses with doors on the
We'll end up with a block of flats in Wiltshire, won't we, in the middle of a field or something?
No, I mean, you know, the regulations are there to predominantly on the health and safety side, to protect people. And when you look back on you know, not that long ago, really, you know, some of the stuff that used to happen, it's just bonkers, really. You don't expect it nowadays. And it's there to protect us in every industry. So,
well, I don't know if you've ever seen. You've seen these videos online where they used to do old school Blue Peter, and they'd be talking to like a chimney stacker or something like that. And he'd be climbing up this massive chimney in the middle of the north, and he's about 500 foot high, and he's just going up this rope. He stays up there all day and repairs it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I think there was one quite recently I saw, and it was them. I think they were cleaning or repairing Big Ben.
I've seen that one. Yeah, and they're just on like this little
and they had,
ride.
they had nothing holding them on. It's just crazy.
Well, listen, tell us a little bit about you outside of work, Louise. Like, what do you like to do when you're not being a facilities management professional?
Try to switch off.
Yeah, as much as possible.
Yeah, as much as possible. I mean, it is hard. I mean, I live in Bournemouth. It's a fantastic part of the country.
Beautiful part of the world.
We've got lovely beaches, you know, the lovely countryside. Literally, you can be at either in like 5 minutes, really.
Yeah,
it's good. So I enjoy walking. I enjoy getting out, spending time with the family.
Yeah.
You know, all the sort of usual stuff, really.
Yeah.
Good book.
Yeah.
You know, sit there. And my music. I love my music as well.
What type of music are you into?
All sorts.
Well, give us a band.
Give us back Killers.
Killers. They're all right. They're not too bad. I could do a bit of Killers every now and then, you know.
What are you into then?
Well, me, I'm weird. Me, I like loads of different stuff.
Like Celine Dion and things like that.
No, God, no, not Celine Dion. My mother killed Celine Dion for me for when, you know, when the Titanic song came out? I think I was 16. So Celine was on the car constantly when I was getting taken back and from college. So Celine's a no-go for me. Really weird. I like, I tend to like bands, but every now and then I like some really heavy rock band like Slipknot or System of a Down randomly. I like a bit of dance music because I'm kind of that age, do you know what I mean? So really weird taste.
I bet Ethan's S Club 7, isn't he?
Yeah, he loves it, yeah. He's always reaching for the stars. So, mind you, I didn't mind that song either. I remember dancing to that into a night when I was about 20, to be fair. But listen, Louise, that brings us to the end. How did you find it?
Fantastic. It's really good. Thank you for having me.
Did you enjoy yourself?
I did, very much so.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for joining us. Absolute pleasure. I'm sure that you wouldn't mind me saying on the podcast that if anybody wanted to reach out and ask you for advice, to feel free to do so on LinkedIn. Obviously, when we post this, we'll post a link to Louise's profile. Thank you very much for joining us, Louise. Lovely pleasure.
Welcome. Thank you.
And to everybody at home, that's another great episode from the team here at Wear Many Hats. Thank you very much. As ever, if you can't be good, be bad. See you soon.